niggas linking up. Trail niggas linking up. Link up, my nigga, let's link up.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Link Up. Of course, I am your host, Ron the Don. Welcome to another episode of Off the Court. Today I'm without my co-host Ty, but he'll definitely be back once he's finished with all of his business. So rest assured we're gonna get back to, doing what we do best. But in the meantime, man, thank you all for tuning in. Happy Father's Day to all my fathers out there for sure. Much love, keep it going. Everybody needs, that in their life. So, I just, hope hope and pray that everybody just, doing good, well, everybody blessed, and we just keep it going. We just gonna get into it, man. Starting with this NBA Finals. And I for sure thought it was gonna be over with by the time we did this podcast. I'm a self-proclaimed, Celtics hater. And I don't even hate the Celtics for real. It's just the fans, man. They make it hard to like the Celtics. But I'm not gonna lie, I was ready to get on here, say congratulations, well-deserved championship and all of that. But now I gotta wait a whole another day or two, because they couldn't get it done. Coming off, you know, game three, excuse me, where we got a 30 piece from both Tatum and Brown, you know, Luca playing his easily the worst game, of his career and the playoffs for sure. Fouling out, just not getting it done, complaining, being a defensive liability. I was expecting this series to be, where they bring the brooms out, or they bring the tape around the court, bring out that Larry O, and Boston get that 18th championship. But looking at game four, it definitely didn't go that way. We had the Mavericks jump on them from the jump. Luka and Kyrie doing what they do best. All the Mavericks players feeling it, and it kind of leaves you thinking, where was this all series? You know what I'm saying? If we had this all series, maybe the finals wouldn't be as boring as it is, or as it has been. You know what I'm saying? Um, but now, we're going to tomorrow, well, tonight, because you'll be seeing this on Monday, probably, where we're going into game five, where Boston has the potential to put it away. Um, a lot of the discussion has been around, Boston's lack of effort. They want to win the championship in Boston. For me, I don't really want to hear that. I feel like, if you really wanted that championship, why wait? You was gonna have a parade in the city. I get it. Everybody want to finish it at home. I respect it. But at the same time, business is business. Nobody on Boston scored over 20 points in that game. It was just a runaway from the start with Dallas. A lot of people, feel like Dallas could be the first people to come back, 3-0. I'm sad to tell you it's not happening. Look, I don't like Boston as much as, everybody else. You see what colors I'm wearing, Miami Heat lifer, you know what I'm saying? But Boston's just too good. With or without Porzingis, they're not giving up, a 3-0 lead. It would be like, Boston, the Boston team we've seen, over the past couple years to do so. But I don't think it's happening. Unfortunately, I think it's their time. Jaylen Brown has been playing some of his best basketball. Tatum, has been playing pretty good, and everybody else. So I just think this thing it gets wrapped up in 5 games. What I feel like Dallas tapped into last game, definitely getting just everybody involved. I saw like Luca early on, not just settling for jumpers, but moving the ball around, allowing Kyrie to get hot, allowing shoot Derek Lively hit his first career three. So, things like that, just getting the crowd into it. Unfortunately, game five is gonna be in Boston, but I feel like if they can carry over that energy from game four, keep it close, allow, Lua can play some sort of defense. You never know. Maybe this series goes back to Dallas. and they can win and, change history. Uh, like I said, I don't think it's gonna happen, but it would be incredible to see. As for Boston, all they gotta do is just show up to the game and play how they've been playing against, Dallas 3 out of the 4 games. Um, as long as they get that Boston team, they're gonna be hosting up that Larry O'Brien trophy. There's a lot of debate about who's gonna be the Finals MVP. Uh, it could really go either way. I know a lot of people are saying Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday. So whoever has the best game, in this game, if the Celtics do win, that's who I feel like is gonna be, the Finals MVP. Um, Also, with that said, RIP to one of the greats, Jerry West. Also RIP Bill Walton. I don't think we've said that on the show, so um, just rest in peace. Praying for them, for their families, and everybody impacted by this. Just hoping that their legacy has never been forgotten, will never be forgotten, because they've definitely made an impact on the game. Jerry from playing and an executive standpoint, and then also Bill Walton from playing, and then his commentary, and then just like his big bundle of personality. So with that, they'll be missed. Also, speaking of being missed, Charles Barkley came out and said basically that this next season, the 24-25 season, is going to be his last season, whether, TNT decides to, extend with the NBA or not. It's going to be his last season. He said he's handing the reins to Jamal Crawford, Vince Carter, somebody like that. And it's kind of sad to see. Charles Barkley has been a staple in basketball, for his somewhat interesting analysis on the game. Definitely insightful, but also like more so entertaining. Just his like true personality, raw uncut self. Just speaking what's on his mind, whether right or wrong. Of course, this year we got the whole joke about Galveston. So it's hopefully, I'm believing that, this last and upcoming season is going to be, one of the best ones yet, from the standpoint of he got nothing to lose. He going into his last, season. So who knows what he might do and say. But, definitely Charles Barkley is going to be missed. One of my favorite personalities ever, like him and Shannon Sharp, just like one of my favorite two sports TV personalities. So definitely wishing Chuck all the best, even though it's not over yet. But when it comes to that, wishing him all the best. A lot has happened in this past couple of weeks. I'm gonna try to get into it the best I can. We're gonna move on to Adam Silver's comments. He was recently on NBA Today on ESPN this past week, and he basically talked about a lot of things. He said, he would have liked to see Caitlin Clark on Team USA. I know that's been a topic of discussion. If you want to hear more about that, check out our last pod in which we discussed that. He also said, two noteworthy things. One was, that the likelihood of getting a team back in Seattle is becoming increasingly likely, especially with, the new media rights deals. Excuse me, the NBA is looking into different cities, Seattle being number one, also Las Vegas, Mexico City, um, potentially Vancouver or somewhere else, Montreal maybe, Kansas City, cities like that. So it's kind of interesting to see. Me as a NBA 2K player, I go play my GM and, build my own. For that to actually happen in real life, it's gonna be kind of cool. Especially with the Sonics, man. I love love Seattle, the city. I've never been, but it just seemed like a cool place. They are responsible for a lot of great hoopers, Jamal Crawford, DeJounte Murray, Paulo Banchero, guys like that. And, some of those Sonic teams was the best. My favorite iteration was with Ray Allen and Rashard Lewis, um, Luke Rittenauer, those guys. So I know Seattle's been fiending, to get their team back. So, it's all in perfect timing. I definitely think Las Vegas is another um city that's gonna get it, based off of they had the Team USA practice there. They have the Las Vegas Summer League, everything. They just had the in-season tournament there. So I definitely think Las Vegas is getting one. I don't really see it going over two teams, being expanded. I think, they'll just probably add in two teams and keep it at 32. I'll be surprised if they have more than two, but, who knows? The talent in the NBA is definitely getting, more and more. So, having more teams is not necessarily a bad thing. Definitely gonna bring in more money for the NBA, league pass, just ticket sales and all those things. So I can see this being, a very good thing for the NBA. Another thing Adam Silver also addressed on this episode was, the conversations around the All-Star game, which is, for the lack of a better term, been underwhelming the past couple of years. Really, it just seems like, you know, the players go out there and go through the motions. And, I understand both sides, but as a consumer and a fan, you would like to see the players that you voted for in the All-Star game or the players like that you really wanted to see to go out there and put on the best show possible, but also get it from, the other standpoint of it's an 82 game season. No player wants to go out there and really get hurt and, lose a lot, so it's just one of those things. And as far as Adam Silver, he just said that it seems like they're past the point of the All-Star game becoming competitive. And with, events like the 3-point contest with Sabrina and Steph, that the All-Star weekend is heading towards like less about the game, but more of an entertainment value. And which, I can see this definitely happening, you know, uh, especially if they do like a Splash Brothers versus Sabrina and Caitlyn for All Star. I know that's gonna bring in a lot of views, but it's not just the All Star game; it's the All Star weekend as a whole. To be honest, the only good event personally is the 3-point contest, and sometimes that's hit or miss for me. I thought the Rising Stars thing was pretty good this weekend, especially like, with the little back and forth with Ben Mathurin and Jaden Ivey. That made it quite interesting. But other than that, it was kind of a lackluster weekend. Nothing too eventful. It's just, everybody going through the motions, which, like I said, I understand it from, wanting to preserve oneself. But what I would like to see personally, and I've heard like, many people say it, maybe like, a King of the Court style tournament, or maybe what they could do is make a tournament to where all the all-star starters, like how they do, is announced, but each team gets, each player, excuse me, gets the ability to draft a team of three from a pool, or a pool of 15, and then each player, or I don't know how the numbers will work. Like, sorry, I'm doing this on the spot, so it might not come out perfect. But each player basically gets, the opportunity to like draft their own team. Maybe you could do like a 3v3 tournament for All-Star weekend and have it take course like throughout the entire weekend, and then have like the dunk contest happen like in between the Rising Stars game, happen in between, stuff like that to keep it more interesting. And maybe that'll bring out a more competitive, nature in the players. I know people talked about potentially doing Team USA versus, the international players. That could be an idea, especially with the growth of the game and, seeing all the best players in the league, such as Embiid, Jokic, Luka, Giannis, Shea, all those guys. So I could definitely, see that happening too. Or you could do something like that. Maybe like every All-Star weekend, just change up the theme. Maybe one year do the traditional, one year do Team USA versus so and so. Other year do like a tournament like Big Three or something like that. I definitely think there's a lot of ways that you can approach it. But hey, I'm just like I said, I'm just a consumer, a fan. Adam Silver is the real, commissioner. So at the end of the day, it's all up to him. That's his job. And so, I believe that, he'll make the right decision. Personally, as much as people, doubt the ideas that he come out with, we always end up watching anyway. We thought that the in-season tournament was dumb, but we love like the court, talking about the courts and the jerseys, and we saw the rise of the Pacers, and look what they did this season. We had fun joking on the Lakers, hanging a banner, so it's like, and things like that. You know, some of his ideas do work. Shoot, the play-in tournament has been a great success, even though, some people don't like the idea because they feel like if you get those top 8 seeds, you should be locked in, but it makes it more entertaining. Also, like the changing up the odds for the draft lottery was something that, he put an emphasis on to prevent teams from tanking as much. And we see every year teams like the Pistons get slighted, you know what I'm saying? Even though they be the worst team, consistently. So I think he has good ideas. It's just all about how he puts them into play. Speaking of, the draft, ideas, the Lakers, have a lot of ideas. They was out here trying to, recruit Coach Hurley from UConn, but this past week we saw him decline. LeBron hit his phone, trying to convince him, even though we got word that LeBron wasn't, involved in the coaching hiring process. So, I don't know, how that works out, but he declined, and now all eyes point to JJ Redick, who just completed his interview for the job. I've been wanting to say that I ultimately thought he was gonna be the guy all along. It just makes sense with the podcast. Him and LeBron's chemistry being on display. It just seems like this was gonna be the move from the jump. Um, but as far as Coach Hurley declining, I feel like this was a better decision for him. He got something strong going at UConn. So I feel like, that would be something to more compelling to go back to. There were people saying that he was maybe trying to use the Lakers to get a bigger offer from UConn. And, for me, obviously he came out and said that that wasn't the case, and I believe him. I just feel like, compared to what he's already doing in UConn versus the Lakers situation, it was the Lakers situation was worse off. It's not a guarantee that he's gonna last long. We've seen the history, the different coaches since LeBron's been there, Luke Walton, Frank Vogel, Darvin Ham, now the next coach. So it just hasn't been a long tenure for pretty much anybody who's been there. So I feel like all in all, he made the right decision. And UConn's been a successful program since he's been there. So why not keep it going? You know, as far as, the Lakers, maybe JJ is the answer. Can he bring them into title contention his first year? I doubt it. It just seems like recently the Lakers have been kind of stuck in the play-in tournament since, they won the championship in the bubble. And, them letting Caruso walk, KCP leave, just like real key guys that really kind of like fit LeBron and AD, guys that was like, willing to play their role and do the little things. And, it's just for the chemistry wise, it was just the best thing. Also, I feel like, AD isn't the AD of old. He's still a great player, but it's, you know, LeBron can't be the first option. Can AD be the first option consistently? I feel like he had a bounce back year in terms of totality. Played more games than he has been in a while, was more consistent. But depending on what AD we get next season, it just all depends. So for me, I just feel like Lakers got bigger plans. We still don't know. I mean, bigger things to think about. We still don't know what's gonna happen with Bronny James. Um, I think he's going to the Lakers. You know, but could the Lakers utilize their picks on a better option? You know what I'm saying? Like Lakers just have, bigger things, bigger fish to fry. Uh, Speaking of, California and, the sports in that area, Klay Thompson has gone noticed for unfollowing, all Warriors related pages on IG. Everybody was making this a big deal. Draymond Green came out and said that it's hilarious. That people think that this means anything. But to me, I don't think it means nothing. I got I got Klay touted to stay. Uh, I feel like outside of maybe Orlando, um, I don't really see him going to another team. And I say Orlando because I feel like they're willing to throw a lot of money at him. I've heard teams like Philly, but I think their focus is Paul George and they're not going to give him a lot of money. People saying the Lakers. I don't even know if the Lakers really have a lot of money to bring in, what Klay is was reportedly looking for earlier in the season. So I just think, the Warriors keep the band together. Especially because, there's been rumors about them trying to acquire Jimmy Butler. So, being that Klay is experienced and he already fits on that timeline, it doesn't seem like the Warriors are ready to start breaking up their big three rather than, retooling around it to make, go for another championship before it's all said and done. Um, I mentioned Paul George earlier. It was reported that him and the Clippers aren't on the same page. Which in PG's shoes, I understand completely. You paying Kawhi over me, and I've been there in the biggest moments when Kawhi hasn't. Granted, I haven't got as far, but I've been trying my best, but I didn't come here to be, the best player. It's supposed to be Kawhi all along. And, because I feel like, you know, I'm I'm more consistent than him, there should be no debate as to why I can't make, the same amount of money. I'm giving you, almost the same production when I'm on the court. So I get it in PG shoes, and you gonna pay Harden to stay without hesitation. But Philadelphia is willing to offer me more. It's tough. I feel like with the new arena opening, and the Clippers really set off to like be their own team and step out of the Lakers' shadow, or at least trying to. It hasn't been done yet. They've been saying that when Kawhi got there, it was his city now and all of that, but they haven't really done anything. They got Tyronn Lue back. He's extended. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Paul George in a Sixers jersey if his money is what he wants. Because I honestly feel like in the East it'll be easier to contend, but at the same time, his situation doesn't really get better because Embiid's always hurt too. So you leaving one injured star to go play with another one. The only difference is the age, and like I said, being in the East. But we saw Paul George has been on the broadcast for the finals recently, and last game they brought Embiid on, and Embiid was shooting his shot, man. He was saying, he was hoping that the Sixers, are able to acquire good players. You know what I'm saying? And Paul George sitting next to him, is a good player. Embiid making it known that it could be a thing. And I feel like what a coincidence that those two were sitting together. You know what I'm saying? But I also feel like, um, you know, who knows? Embiid also went on to say that he doesn't really like Boston. First time I can honestly say me and him have something in common. Um, he said Boston really had an easy path this year. You know, the East was hurt, including himself. He doesn't think it's gonna be like that next year. So he's not really impressed by what Boston's doing right now. Now, you know, to take nothing away from Boston, like I said, you know, in the past, they're the number one seed. You know, they just playing the hand that they was dealt. They've been the most healthiest team throughout the playoffs, you know, outside of Porzingis. So, you know, they got the most talent, so it's just their time. You know, they did all their moves at the right time, you know, heading into the season. But with the healthy Embiid, healthy Paul George, and the Tyrese Maxey, if that was to happen, I feel like the East would be very exciting next year. You know, you got Dame coming back in Milwaukee, the Pacers and Knicks ascending. Um, and then, you know, if Donovan Mitchell stays with the Cavaliers, they're gonna be in the conversation. So it's just interesting time, you know, to be a fan of the NBA overall, and an interesting time, you know, to be watching and see how it plays out because there's been a different champion every year. So it's not as easy to call it, you know, who might be the champion next year. You know, me personally, that's why I wanted the Celtics to just go ahead and in the finals so we can get into all the, you know, off-season deep dives, look at every team, you know, the draft process. But, you know, the longer this goes on, the longer we're gonna have to wait. So, you know, but it's all good. Um, you know, with the East getting tougher next year, one team that it was very tough on was the Milwaukee Bucks. Uh, Recently Doc came out and, you know, did said Doc like things. He was just saying, you know, when it came to Damian Lillard and, you know, his time in Milwaukee this season, he didn't really realize that, you know, Dame wasn't in shape and that Dame, you know, when they sat down and talked, Dame basically told him that he wasn't in shape this season, that he never really had a chance to get in shape. And, you know, I say that this is a Doc-like thing to say because, one, he's calling out his player for not being in shape, you know, telling him that Dame, something that Dame probably said, you know, and Dame doesn't seem like a guy that, you know, wouldn't mind saying it, you know, but Dame doesn't seem like a guy that makes excuses either, unlike Doc, you know what I'm saying? Doc, the way this comes off is like he was making the excuse because Dame wasn't in shape. You know what I'm saying? Uh, that Dame wasn't in shape. That's the reason, you know, the Bucks didn't have success. But as we all know, the Bucks was actually doing way better prior to Doc being there with Adrian Griffin. You know, even though Doc was a consultant, it just didn't work out for Milwaukee. Granted, by the time they got to the playoffs, you know, their whole roster started breaking down, starting with Giannis. But I don't know. I just feel like this Bucks team, their biggest problem was letting Drew Holiday get away. And I'm not saying, you know, don't go after Damian Lillard because that's what you needed. You needed somebody to close games for you. You needed somebody when the game was tight to give the ball to and say, go take us home. So I definitely think Dame was the right choice, but at what cost? As you can see, Drew Holiday is now in Boston, you know. So because, you know, Milwaukee's eagerness to acquire Dame, they now created, you know, a juggernaut, which even if Milwaukee comes back with the same team all healthy, you know, unless they make some big move, I don't even think they can knock off Boston, personally. You know, I think Giannis is gonna do his thing, Dame gonna do his thing, but outside of them, you know, do they have enough? You know, Boston, I just feel like is the more complete team. So, and then you, on top of that, you know, we've had questions about Doc's, you know, coaching. You know, we've seen him blow leads in the playoffs. Uh, so like, is his coaching gonna be enough? Is he gonna be able to make adjustments? Is he gonna be able to put his star players in positions, you know, to get them over the hump? It's yet to be seen. So that's definitely one thing, you know. to keep an eye on. Now, going to another team in the East, my team, the Miami Heat. They have a lot of things that they need to address, starting with the Jimmy Butler situation. I honestly think at this point they shouldn't hold their breath on the Donovan Mitchell situation, and all signs point to him, extending in Cleveland. So, but Bill Simmons actually came out with a pretty interesting, and this was the trade for to Atlanta, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and first round picks for Trae Young. And I thought this was pretty interesting because initially I was like, man, Trae Young, I don't know. But then the more I think about it, the more I kind of like it. The only thing I don't like is like you're giving up shooting, prolific shooting in the form of Duncan Robinson. And also like even though he's not a great defender, Duncan Robinson has like positional size. Bringing in Trae, now you have a backcourt of potentially Terry Rozier and Trae Young. So that's kind of scary, defensive end. Granted, you got Jimmy and Bam, but it's only so much they can do. I like this trade though. Initially I didn't like it, but I'm starting to like this trade even more because now that I think about it, that's what Jimmy and Bam want to do. They want to play defense. Jimmy, at least in the regular season, he's not trying to go to the ball and score 40 points. That's not Jimmy. Trae Young has no problem doing that. He has no problem, taking the reins. We seen in Atlanta, the your turn, my turn thing with DeJounte Murray is not really clicking as the Hawks kind of hope it would. So I feel like in Miami, he wouldn't have that problem. Him and Bam pick and roll would be great. Um, I know Spoelstra, if any coach can figure it out and unlock him, I feel like Spoelstra could do it. And, I feel like Trae Young is never going to be an elite defender at all. But I feel like when it comes to like steals, Trae Young is very underrated in that department because I've seen him, at least put in effort. Sometimes now, he's been, called a coach killer and rumored to, not give his all when he's in a situation that he doesn't like. Could that change in Miami? I don't know. But I feel like Miami could surround him with, defensive talent to cover for his flaws if the only thing he has to do is score. So in that, you know, respect, I actually like the trade, you know, being that Bill Simmons is a known Celtics fan, it's kind of shocking, you know, it's kind of like, is he saying this, to bring the Heat down or bring them up? But, I like this trade from Bill Simmons. So me, I'll give it A minus. I like it. Let's see what else we got here. Um, little WNBA action. Earlier today we had the Fever in the Sky, in which Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and the Fever came out on top. Now 2-0 in the season series against the Chicago Sky. Of course, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Sky, Fever. This game wasn't without fireworks, as we saw. Angel Reese pick up a flagrant one foul on Caitlin Clark with a blow to the head, which was really the talk of the internet. But both players came out after the game and said it was just nothing more than just basketball. I know everybody's gonna have their thoughts and opinions on it otherwise, but all in all, it was a pretty good game. It was back and forth, a lot, especially in the first half. As far as like from a scoring standpoint, it was pretty exciting. On the Fever, you have 4 players in double figures. On the Sky, you have 5. Cardozo and Angel Reese both had double doubles. Speaking of Angel Reese, I know they lost today, and she hasn't been able to get, as far as in the win column, the victory over Caitlin Clark. But honestly, as far as the rookie of the year race, I know everybody is saying Caitlin Clark, but I wouldn't sleep on Angel Reese. After this game today, she's now had a double double in her last 6 games. So from a production standpoint, she's been pretty consistent in that area. Also Cameron Brink, another rookie, Aaliyah Edwards, Rickea Jackson, but mainly, Clark, Reese, and Brink are definitely up there. And we still got a lot of season left. So I just wanted to give Angel Reese, her flowers. I know she and Shaq has been saying that she belongs in the conversation. She definitely is. I know her comments can come off as a little haterish, but when she's on her game and she's backing it up and she's, pulling in rebounds, scoring points, and doing her thing, you know, it gotta affect the win column. But as far as individually in the rookie of the year, she keep going on this pace, I can see it happening. Of course, Clark got all the, attention and the media attention, especially when she has a good games, but she's had, some down games, and some high turnover games. So, it's all about who's going to be consistent. And I feel like as far as on a consistent basis, Angel Reese has her beating that category. Um, I also want to get into, the game from yesterday, the Liberty and the Aces. The Liberty picked up the victory in which they went to 12-2, and the Aces fall to 6-6 with a Liberty win of 90-82. This was a pretty exciting game. Jonquel Jones got her career high of 34 points. Sabrina Ionescu doing what she does, 15 points, 12 assists. Stewie, 14 points, 12 rebounds. Asia Wilson, 21-9. Kelsey Plum, 22 points. It was a pretty exciting game in this finals rematch, but I don't know. It just seems like the Liberty are in it to win it all. Them and the Connecticut Sun and the Minnesota Lynx have been like, the three best teams this season. But it just seems like at the end of the day, I feel like Stewie, Sabrina, Jonquel, like they're getting that chip this year. I don't know if it's recency bias or anything like that. And I never want to count out the Aces because, a couple episodes ago, I was just calling them a dynasty. But I feel like, this might be the year. There's been talks about is the super team era dead? I don't think quite yet. But because I feel like the Liberty, is a super team. They have a big three. But I think it's their year, Of course, I mentioned the Lynx and the Sun, so we're gonna see if if they can sustain their momentum throughout the season. Uh, I know that the Liberty are slated to face the Lynx on June 25th in the Commissioner's Cup. So that's going to be pretty exciting. I want to see what the Lynx, are they going to rise to the occasion in this moment? Shout out Kayla McBuckets. She's been having a phenomenal stretch. But I feel like, Brianna Stewart has been balling. Sabrina's been balling. Jonquel has been balling. I just feel like it's their time. With that being said, sorry if I was going on a little fast today. I'm used to, back and forth. But we gonna be right next week. So as always, I appreciate everybody watching the pod, man. I appreciate the support. If you can, like, share, comment, subscribe, follow us on all your podcast platforms. And with that, again, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And we out.
Trip forever and I'm just not getting started. That's the one.
Yeah.